I'm Caleb Brooks with the AHSAA Radio Network. I'm at Piedmont High School, joined by head football coach, Coach Steve Smith, and Coach fresh off of a state championship, another one. And, you guys here have just started to rack them up now. And you look behind right here and you've got state championship plaques and trophies and all type of stuff. And, I talked to you back before the Super 7 and did a little radio interview with you, and we talked about, what you guys have been able to do here. And I thought it was very interesting what you said. We don't have a bunch of D1 guys running around here. We just kind of win with what we got. And I think, to me, that's what's made what you guys have done so impressive. What is it that's really allowed you guys to be so consistent and be so successful in your tenure here?
Well, I know a lot of places have tight-knit communities, and we've got that here at Piedmont. We've got a group of people, from our administration all the way through our faculty, our student body, the parents, the fans, the people in the booster club. Everybody loves this school and this place, and they love each other. And, when you have that type of environment, you're trying to preach team to people, and all, because we've got some good football players. I don't mean to make it sound like we don't have good players. We got some really, really good high school football players. But, when you look at the guys that we run on the field, you don't see a lot of guys that meet the typical D1 standards, I guess, from a size perspective and things like that. Just a lot of kids that play with heart and play hard for each other. They still buy into that, loving the guy beside you and playing hard for the guy beside you. And they've been able to put aside personal goals and things for the betterment of the team. A lot of guys maybe that would be playing a different position if they were somewhere else, but they play where the team needs them. And just that team first mentality, I think, and especially in the culture and society we live in today, where everybody's trying to tell young people it's all about themselves and get what they can get. Our guys have done a really good job of buying into playing for the guy beside them and playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not the one on the back, all those kind of slogans that you hear people use. And our guys have really been able to buy into that. And I always tell them, if the team has success, then the individual honors and accolades will come, and they bought into that.
You grew up around this area up here in the north part of Alabama, and now settled in here at Piedmont. And when you were younger, when did you kind of decide, all right, coaching is what I want to go into, and this is kind of what I want to do with my life?
Well, my high school coach, who I'm very fond of, Coach Johnson from Center, as well as Coach Beckett, who was my baseball coach and his assistant football coach. Back in the day, coaches made very little as far as income went. They spent a lot of time, a lot of hours away from home, and I was a pretty smart kid in school. I made good grades, and they both told me, said, you don't want to go into coaching. Whatever you do, just don't go into coaching. It's long hours, a lot of time away from your family, very little pay. Use your brain, go out and do something else. And so even when I went to college, I got a degree in computer science, and math I had a double major, because I enjoyed math and enjoyed things that was related to math. In the late 80s, early 90s, computer science was kind of a booming major. You're supposed to make a lot of money. And so I got my degree and I had my first job interview, and the people told me they wanted to hire me, and they wanted me to work 6-10-hour days behind a desk programming computers. And I knew right off, I'd always felt like what I really wanted to do was work with kids, and coaching was what I wanted to do. So that was like, mid-December. And in January, I re-upped for what they had called at that time the non-traditional fifth-year program at Jack State, which allowed you to get your teacher certification and your master's at the same time. And I had been down there with Coach Burgess, and he helped me finish up my graduate degree. And I worked there for 1 year at Jack State as a student coach, and then he was able to help me land pretty much every job I've ever gotten. And coaching is just what I always felt like I was called to do. I do feel like coaching young people is a calling. Almost like going into the ministry as a calling. I don't think you pick this job for the hours. You don't pick it for the schedule or for the summers off or whatever people want to say. That a lot of teachers get criticized for the schedule they have. But I think a true teacher, a true coach has to be called to want to work with young people, and I felt like that was my calling, and I've been blessed every day for the last 27 years in this profession.
You come driving in here to Piedmont, and you see, I texted my dad right when I pulled up and I said, Piedmont's got one of the nicest baseball fields I've seen. Softball field's gorgeous. Your football field out here is gorgeous. Facilities here, how important is that to have these nice facilities and for these kids to see that this community is willing to buy into them?
Well, I always say everything in football is a trickle-down effect. About 20 years ago, we started seeing how facilities was impacting college football. and how people were, in that race to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. And back in 2009, we started an effort here to make our school system kind of stand out. It was started with the MacBook initiative, where we were the first school system in the state of Alabama to go to a 1-to-1 and put a computer in every student's hands in grades 4 through 12, and they carry those computers home with them every day. We had citywide internet for them to be able to use. It was just a vision that our leaders in our school system and our city government had. And then the athletic facilities started with our gym renovation and then continued over with our new football stadium, on-campus baseball and softball, which we'd never had. We played in those the first time in the spring of 2012. And just something to be very proud of in this town. And our kids understand that everybody does not have the facilities that we have, and that they need to take pride in that. And it's just been a huge factor as far as our kids every day when they come to school, come to a weightlifting class, or come to practice, whatever sport they're playing. They know that they're playing in a first-class facility, and they're always going to have first-class stuff and equipment, and they take pride in that. And it's been an exclamation point, I guess, to the entire thing, with the building up of our school and our school's reputation. I think this past year our school was the number 6 rated system in the state of Alabama academically on the state report card. And the people in front of us, were some pretty wealthy city school systems down around the Birmingham area. And so, to see where Piedmont City Schools is right now from an academic athletic standpoint, I couldn't think of a better place for my kids to go to school.
Speaking of your kids, you're coaching your son, and kind of just explain what that's been like to be able to coach your kid, and how have you kind of had to adjust, for yourself in coaching him?
Well, I've got 2 kids on the team, actually. Mm-hmm. Sean's a junior, and he played a prominent role for us this year. Sloan's a freshman this year, so he was a JV guy, but he was with us on Fridays, and both of those guys spent 3-4 years with me as managers, watching a lot of these programs before them come up. They, actually had a chance to be managers on some of the state championship teams prior to, and and everybody tell you that all the teams are unique and they're all special, but being able to experience the success we had this year and having both my sons on the field with me, and for us being able to celebrate that as players and coach, I try to separate the two. I try to be dad at home and just treat them like anybody else here at the school. Now, they probably tell you they get treated a little bit more harshly than others maybe, but I've always tried to separate the job from the family time at home. And we talk about football a little bit at home, but it's very seldom, X's and O and correction type stuff. It's just more about, things that happen during the game or something. But it's been a joy. It's been a true honor to be able to have my kids on the field with me, and especially this year at Auburn, us walking away victorious. Having both those guys out there was very special.
This season, being defending champs and all that type of stuff, you have a target on your back. You guys have been there. You dealt with that before. But how did you feel about how your team was able to deal with it, and the way that they were able to get throughout the season, and then even the adversity that you faced in the state championship game?
Well, we had a little bit of a chip on our shoulder since we lost in the finals in 18, in Flomaton, and beating us in 18. We got down there, but we had the old Wide World Sports. We went through the agony of defeat, in 18. So we had a little bit of an itch to try to get back down there and get that taste out of our mouth. And our guys, we had such a young team. We had 2 starters back on offense and 4 on defense to start the season, and just a lot of question marks at a lot of positions, but we got a lot of younger guys that stepped up, and we had some injuries, and we had some more younger guys that stepped up and filled those roles when injuries hit us, and just a special group of kids in our locker room that really believed in each other and played hard. And as the season developed, we thought we'd have a chance to make a little run, then we thought we had a chance to maybe get to the semis, and we had a rematch with a team that had beaten us in the regular season. We were able to win that game, and then you put the tape in, look at Mobile Christian, they got college prospects all over the field at every position. You're sitting there thinking, how's this team 9-4? And then you look at the people they had lost to. I think the 4 losses come to people that were combined like 46-4. Mm-hmm. And so, it was a daunting challenge, but our coaches came in here, went to work, and got us a good plan together, and our kids believed in what we were doing. And even when we were down 10-0 at halftime, I told them we'd been down before. It wasn't the end of the world. We just had to go out there and play a little better, and made a few adjustments on the offensive side that kind of got us at least where we could get a hat on a hat with everybody and run the ball, and then we hit some big passes down the middle, latter part of the game that we're able to pull out a close win over a very, very talented Mobile Christian team.
Going in 10-0 at halftime, you guys had really struggled to get anything going on the offensive side of the ball. But one of the things that was impressive to me is y'all didn't change up anything. You know, you never tried to get ahead of yourself. You never tried to get in a hurry on offense. You kind of stuck to your game plan. Obviously, the biggest play to me, I think, was the big pass to start the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That gave you guys a touchdown and being able to score so quick. But, you know, what does that say about your kids and the fact that you never saw panic in them? You never really saw them get flustered, you know, being down in a state championship game where the year before you had been in the same situation getting beat?
You know, we made one little adjustment at halftime. We put a tight end in the game, which we had not done in the first half. And Mobile Christian had really done a good job of neutralizing our running game in the first half with really just 5 guys, and they were playing what I call man-free coverage. Had a guy in all of our receivers facing a safety over the top on each side, and just by putting a tight end, it made them have to walk somebody back down on the line, and then we started having some success. And you may notice we started direct snapping it and letting our quarterback lead block some, so that got us a man advantage to where they had to bring another guy down in the box to stop the run, and then we were able to hit some big passes down the middle when we got some single coverage. We got some really talented receivers and young quarterback that's got a bright future, but you know, there in the first half, we were trying to run 4 guys out against 6 in coverage, and you know, it looked like they was playing defense with about 20. So when we got some numbers to our advantage there, we were able to hit some big pass plays down the middle, and credit to the kids for getting open and making those throws and catches, and the line for protecting well enough for us to get it off. And then our run game, you know, the second half, we probably controlled the clock in the second half for about 18 minutes of the 24, and that was critical because, you know, Mobile Christian again had so many big play weapons on the offensive side. Their quarterback was a really, really good player, and he had good weapons on the outside. They had a good running back and good slot, good tight end, and line was big, so we had to try to do something to where we could keep the ball. And second half, we were able to do that and get a couple stops on the defensive side. So, you know, just, again, no panic in our kids, just kept their heads, kept their cool, and you know, I think that's one of the things that makes me most proud of them because, you know, this game you can't play off of emotion, at least not for the whole 48 minutes. You got to be able to keep a level head, and they did a great job with that.
Obviously, Mobile Christian had Deontay Lawson, who's a big player in the state for next year's class. What was your game plan going in for him? Were you trying to run away from him? Were you running at him?
No, you really couldn't go away from him, you know, because they were playing him at inside backer. And as I said, they did a good job covering up our linemen there in the first half. You know, they were doing a lot of stemming with their front, and so we had to do a lot of combo type blocking on him, and he was running free a lot. You know, in the second half when we were running some of our stuff, we were able to get a blocker on him a few times. There's still some times, you know, to where he was running free, and he played a heck of a game. He made a lot of plays for them, you know, but, you know, we were just, football's about numbers. It's about trying to get a hat on a hat, and we were able to do some things. Like I said, the direct snap helped us a lot, being able to use Jack, our quarterback, as a blocker, and that says a lot about him, you know. You sit back there passing for over 2,000 yards, you get in the state championship game. Of course, he had a couple big throws, but the part that don't get told is he had a couple of big blocks on a couple of those plays, you know, against Lawson when we had to have first downs on 4th down, and, you know, just did an outstanding job there. And then our line played well as the year went on. We were very inexperienced on the offensive line. Hayden Young was our only returning starter. He kind of had to anchor that line down, but those guys, Bryson Ingram, my defensive end for us, played some offensive line in the second half of that game. And like I said, Sean Smith, my son, our other defensive end, came in at tight end, and you know, we were able to run the ball for, I think, almost 160 yards in the second half, and able to hit a couple big pass plays, and you know, we were able to neutralize what I thought was one of the better teams we played against in the last couple of years.
You know, obviously now reclassification, Fife going to be making the move up. It's kind of been the talk. You know, getting to see you two go at it this coming year. But, you know, how much you guys kind of, you know, looking forward to that challenge of having them now has been, you know, so dominant at 2A come up and kind of challenge now you guys and try to take your crown here at 3A?
Well, you know, Fife has a great program. Coach Benefield's, in my opinion, he's one of the top 2 or 3 coaches in this state. Has been for a long time. They've got a great team, but, you know, Fife's not in our region. And that's what I've tried to tell everybody, because if I had $1 for everybody that mentioned Piedmont Fife, you know, I'd take a few days off and just go somewhere. But, you know, and I think Coach Benefield, he and I are good friends. I think he'd tell you the same thing. You know, he's got a region that he has to worry about. We have a region we have to worry about. There's a lot of great teams in Class 3A. There's a lot of great teams within our region. I feel like we play in the toughest region in Class 3A in the state, you know. And, you know, to be honest, I don't even really think about Fife and Piedmont because both of us have a lot of work to do before that game ever happens. Like I said, tons of respect for their program, tons of respect for the hard-nosed way that they play. But, you know, I think it's a lot of premature talk for people to be talking about that. I know it's good on the surface to talk about it, but, you know, it's really premature because I feel like both of us have plenty of teams on our schedule this upcoming year that are going to be big-time challenges. And, you know, every year there seems to be that matchup that everybody talks about that's inevitable. And very seldom does that matchup ever happen.
Yeah.
You can think of some cases that was the case this year in Alabama even, you know, that people were looking forward to a game that was supposed to be played on paper and then it didn't happen. So, again, tons of respect for them, and if we see them, I'm sure it'll be a great game against two really, really good teams with two great fan bases. But, you know, we'll have to cross that bridge should we ever get there.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach, appreciate you taking time to sit down with me. Congratulations to y'all on getting another championship, and good luck entering next year's defending champ.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming.
Yes, sir.